First, a quick introduction into why this story exists. Then we'll move on to the story. The animation, The Folly of Celestia, left me completely unable to move on. It was amazing, but it broke something. The problem for me seems to have part of its roots in how the ending wasn't pure good. It left the door open to become good, but it wasn't there yet. This is me writing a maybe headcanon about the next 2 steps forward. It is written and will be recorded in 2 sessions. I guess you could call them chapters. First is me leaving things largely open, trying to keep it fitting with every interpretation that people may have. In the second, I'll be taking more liberties. If you are here because you, like me, need some closure and you got it after chapter 1, I advise you stop reading. I am not a writer. Far from it. The last text I wrote that was meant to be read was over 4 years ago. I don't know if I ever wrote a story for others to read. Chapter 1. Reunions. It was the night that changed everything. Celestia hadn't heard or seen twilight in many moons. No one she asked had seen her. No magic could find her. While Celestia had reassured all Twilight's friends that she was smart, that no matter what situation she was in, she would find a way to get out of it. But after so much time, even Celestia had started to fear the worst. All until that night, when she was called by what felt like herself. It took but a moment to arrive. And there she saw her filly, her student, her twilight sparkle. There was a shock to finally see the one she cared for so much. The relief of seeing her again, the worry over her having turned grey, the panic over her having lost her wings, the utter lack of understanding of her repeating that she doesn't love me. For while she saw her filly, she did not yet see her folly. She sat down next to her and covered her with her wing, which Twilight turned into a crushing embrace while crying. And so they sat, for what could have been a minute, but may have been hours. They sat in embrace, while Twilight cried out all her rage, her sadness, her loneliness, until she no longer had anything to give, and fell into a deep slumber. It wasn't often that Celestia didn't know what to do. Yet now, all she could was to try and comfort the one she cared for so much, the one who had suffered so much in her absence. How could she have let this happen? She took the passed out Twilight back to Canterlot, but informed no one yet. There was too much she didn't know yet. She didn't yet know if Twilight would even stay. Better not to get anyone's hopes up. After a day of rest, Twilight finally awoke. Celestia had not left her side since. No royal duty carried any weight right now. Now Twilight had awoken, they could finally speak. Through Twilight's tale of how she came to resent Celestia for carving a path for her, how she disappeared to finally not be under her control, how she removed her wings to defy the path Celestia had laid out for her, an attempt to go back to the way things were supposed to be, how she used the Alicorn amulet in an attempt to finally silence her ever-rotating doubts, how she left everyone she loved behind, as no one could be able to understand her. Through her tale, Celestia finally saw her folly. How she didn't see the signs earlier, how she didn't explain her actions to one she cared for so much and who needed to know why. She explained she was sorry that she failed her so much. She asked if there was anything she could do for her, to which Twilight asked if she could get Spike. Without hesitation, Celestia set off, fully aware that, if she wished, Twilight could easily disappear again. While she hoped she wouldn't, she had to trust that Twilight wanted to be in her life once more, but it was her choice to make. Spike didn't get much of a moment to understand what was happening. One moment he was making sure all the books were properly organized. The next he was levitated off his feet, firmly placed on the back of Celestia, and flying at breakneck speed. He didn't hear much over the wind, but he heard all he needed to. Twilight was finally found. Their reunion was the only way it could be. Twilight explaining how she was so sorry about what she had done, and Spike just hugging her and telling her he didn't care and was just happy to see her again. She spent over a week in Canterlot, working out with Spike and Celestia how she wanted her life to move forward, and building up the courage to finally see her friends again. Their reunion was much like the others. Gasps were had, excuses were given and drowned out. Hugs were received, and many tears were shed. While it was obvious there was an unease, as not all understood the dark place Twilight had fallen into, and Twilight felt wrong about trying to start off again. This unease was overruled by how happy everyone was to see each other again. It took a couple weeks before Twilight felt she could go outside again, first disguised and making sure her sides were always covered. Much later as herself again. Eventually, over time, with the guidance of her friends, including Celestia, now always explaining her actions, she brought back an air of normality to her life.